"Miracles for $1, said the poor black girl. The millionaire laughed until a true miracle happened. The sun was hot on the cracked pavement, and the noise of the city rolled like an endless wave, horns blaring, footsteps rushing, conversations spilling into the air. In the middle of it all sat a little wooden stand, uneven and worn, painted with shaky letters. Miracles for $1. Behind the stand sat a little girl no older than 8. Her faded pastel dress, once white with soft stripes of color, had been washed so many times that the fabric was thin. Her braids were neat but simple, tied with tiny elastics. Her hands rested on the counter, small fingers folded together, her dark eyes scanning the people who hurried past. Most never looked at her. Some smirked, whispering that it was a scam. Others laughed outright, shaking their heads at the absurdity of a child claiming to sell miracles for $1. But she never flinched. She sat there silently, shoulders straight, as if waiting for someone who might understand. That someone came in the form of a man in a wheelchair. His suit was expensive, tailored in a shade of gray that caught the light. His black shoes gleamed. His watch, a thick gold piece that screamed of wealth, flashed when he pushed the wheels forward. He stopped in front of the stand and leaned back with an amused grin. His voice was sharp, loud enough for those around to hear. "Miracles for $1? He scoffed, his laughter echoing. "What kind of nonsense is this?" The girl raised her eyes to him, but said nothing. The man wasn't done. He smirked wider, enjoying the attention of the small crowd beginning to gather. "Tell you what," he said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "If you can cure me, if you can make me stand up and walk again, I'll give you $1 million. People nearby chuckled, some shaking their heads. They thought it was cruel but entertaining. A rich man mocking a poor little girl. What could she possibly do? The girl didn't smile. She didn't lower her head. She simply looked at him, her gaze steady, her expression unreadable. Her voice when it came was soft but clear. "A miracle isn't always what you think it is, sir." Something about the way she said it cut through the laughter around them. It wasn't playful or childish. It was quiet, but it held weight. The kind of weight that makes people listen even when they don't want to. The man arched a brow. "And what do you think a miracle is?" "A magic trick, a prayer, $1's worth of hope." His tone was mocking, but a flicker of unease moved through him when he noticed the girl's calm. She wasn't embarrassed. She wasn't intimidated. She wasn't even blinking. The little girl slowly reached under the stand. The crowd leaned forward, waiting to see what she would pull out. A trinket, a toy, some foolish trick. Instead, she laid a single folded paper on the counter. It was worn, the edges frayed. With small hands, she slid it toward him. He frowned and picked it up. The paper trembled slightly in his hand as he unfolded it. Inside were words written in a messy scrawl, uneven letters pressed deep into the page. "Please God, give my mom back. She got sick and left me. I'll do anything. Just let her hug me one more time." The man's smirk faltered. His laughter died. The noise of the crowd seemed to fade. He stared at the paper, and for a moment he forgot himself. His throat tightened and something heavy pressed against his chest. He looked back at the girl. She was watching him, her face still calm, but her eyes shimmered. "That was my first miracle," she said softly. "But God didn't answer, so I started giving them to others. Maybe he'll listen if I don't stop asking." The man blinked hard. For years he had carried his own bitterness, his own pain of being trapped in a chair while the world moved on without him. He had drowned it in money, in arrogance, in mocking those who hoped for what he thought was impossible. Yet here was a little girl with nothing, no mother, no wealth, no reason to believe. And still she kept asking for miracles. The crowd shifted uneasily. Some people looked away, ashamed for laughing earlier. The man tried to hold on to his pride, but something inside him cracked. He gripped the letter, his knuckles pale, and for the first time in years his eyes burned with tears. He could not blink away. The girl whispered then, just loud enough for him to hear. "Sometimes, sir, the miracle isn't walking. Sometimes it's standing again on the inside." The letter trembled in the man's hand. He wanted to laugh again, to dismiss it as the scribbles of a child, but he couldn't. The words carved into that paper had sunk deep, opening wounds he thought he had sealed long ago. His chest felt tight, his throat raw. And though he tried to steady his breathing, something inside him refused to be silenced. The girl sat quietly, her small hands folded on the counter. She didn't push him. She didn't demand anything. She simply let the silence weigh heavy between them, as though she already knew he was fighting a battle he'd kept hidden for years. Finally, the man's voice broke and uneven. You think this is a miracle? A letter? A prayer? No one answered. His eyes glistened as he stared at her, as if desperate for her to tell him it was all foolishness, so he could retreat back into his armor of pride. The girl tilted her head slightly. I think the miracle is that I'm still here. She said softly, that even when I lost my mom, I didn't stop asking. I didn't stop believing. If I gave up, I'd have nothing left. But if I keep going, maybe someone else will get the miracle I couldn't. Her words pierced through him like glass. He thought of his own story. How he used to run, how he used to dance, how he used to live without limits until the accident stole it all away. Since then, he hadn't prayed. He hadn't hoped. He had convinced himself it was easier to mock than to believe, easier to sneer at the weak than admit his own despair. And here was a little girl with nothing but loss. Yet she still carried hope strong enough to share with strangers. He lowered his gaze, staring at his hands, gripping the armrests of his wheelchair. His knuckles were white, his breathing ragged. For the first time in years, tears slid down his face. Not tears of anger, not even of pity. Tears of grief, raw and unrestrained. He wept for the man he used to be. He wept for the arrogance that had kept him chained even more than his legs. And he wept because a child had reminded him that brokenness was not the end. The girl's expression didn't change. She didn't gloat, didn't smile in triumph. She simply watched him, her big brown eyes steady and sad, as if she had seen this many times before. Slowly, she pushed a small jar toward him across the counter. Inside were a few crumpled bills and coins. The miracles strangers had paid for. You don't owe me $1 million, she whispered. Just $1, that's all. His hands shook as he reached for his wallet. For a man who had spent millions without thought, pulling out a single bill had never felt heavier. He placed it in the jar, his fingers trembling, his tears dripping onto the counter. When he looked back up at her, something inside him had shifted. His pride was gone, his arrogance broken. What remained was raw, fragile, and strangely free. I don't know if I'll ever walk again, he said, voice breaking. But you gave me something today I thought I'd lost forever. The girl blinked. What? Hope, he whispered. The crowd around them had gone utterly silent. Some were crying quietly, others holding their children closer. In that noisy city street, a hush had fallen, as if everyone was afraid to break the fragile weight of what had just unfolded. The man wheeled back slowly, gripping the handles with hands that felt strangely light. His legs remained still. Yet inside, for the first time in years, he felt as if he had stood up. Not physically, but in the way that mattered most. He glanced back at the girl one last time. You said miracles aren't always what we think, he murmured. Maybe you're right. Maybe the miracle is just being reminded to believe again. The girl gave the faintest nod, her face unreadable, but her eyes shining. She didn't promise him anything more. She didn't offer false hope. She simply sat there, a child behind a wooden stand, continuing her quiet fight to keep asking for miracles in a world that had given her every reason to stop. And as the man rolled away, wiping his face with the back of his hand, he carried something no doctor, no money, no success had been able to give him. Not a cure for his legs, but a cure for his soul. The crowd began to disperse, some leaving money in the jar, others touching the girl's shoulder gently as they passed. But she remained still, her hands folded once again, waiting for the next person who might come. Not for tricks, not for games, but for the kind of miracle only a broken child who refused to stop believing could offer. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more emotional, dramatic, and unexpected tales. And let us know in the comments where in the world are you watching from. We love hearing from all of you. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and keep watching.